Hey everyone, welcome to the Fit to Fat Fit Experience podcast with your hosts, Drew and Lynn Manning. We're so excited you guys joined us today.
Hey there. Hey there.
Yes. Hello everyone. Today we have a great episode. Mike Bledsoe has another very successful, very popular podcast called Barbell, Shrugged. We bring him on the episode today, and it's a great episode. He has so much information, so much wisdom, knowledge, and he's very similar to our philosophies too. We get into, his transition going from the bodybuilding kind of mentality back in the day to more of a mind-body connection, longevity, loving your body first instead of just punishing it and working harder, no pain, no gain type of mentality. So very, very surprising. We had a great talk with him. He gets into his $15 morning smoothie that he takes now, which was
kind of crazy.
It is. And we are, spin and shake people, and I'm into, superfoods and micronutrients, just like Mike is. And he kind of talks about specifically what he puts into this. So you guys got to stick around and listen to hear what he puts into this morning shake.
And we have a lot of great discussion about supplements and different nutrients and vitamins and some of our thoughts on that as we like to talk about it. But really, like Drew was mentioning, I really enjoyed his just philosophy and viewpoint on the mind-body connection and steering a little bit away from just, you're healthy if you exercise, because that's not always true. So stick around for that.
Yeah, we talk about the difference between performance and health. And a lot of people think if their performance is good, their health is good too, but it's not always true. So before we jump into the episode with Mike, the sponsors for this episode are, the first one is Everly Well. Everlywell.com is, I'm very excited about this company. It's a unique company. Basically what they do is they provide at-home testing for certain types of medical tests that you want to do. So your cholesterol and lipids, your sleep and stress levels, your, hormones for women, which Lynn is a big fan of preaching about that because it changed her life. And pretty much, I think they have about 7 different types of tests you can do. You can do a heavy metals test. You can do a food allergy test as well. And what's cool about it, the thing I like about Everly Well, and I'm excited to announce them to you guys, is that you go and order your test online. They send it to you a couple days later. Comes in the mail with, easy to follow instructions on how to do the test. So you'll prick your finger. You'll put like 5 drops of blood in this thing. You captures it and you close it up. You seal it up and you mail it off. Either you drop it off at a UPS store. It's prepaid packaging, right? Or you schedule a pickup. So UPS will come to your door and just pick it up for you. So it's so much more convenient than having to go to the store, going to the doctor and scheduling a doctor's appointment where you wait around forever and the doctor's always late. And, you got to go to this lab or that lab for these different tests. It skips all of that. It's so convenient. It's affordable, super easy to follow. And, after you send it in, a couple days later, boom, they email you with the results. And the thing I like about it is the results are so easy to understand and read of, what your levels are, where they are now, what that means, and what you can do to improve them. All right. It's great. And it's so easy to follow with a green, yellow, red type of system. And it's pretty much, dumbed down so anybody can understand it.
Yeah. Biggest complaint I get from women is I feel like I'm doing everything right and I'm not seeing results. And this sounds ballsy of me to say, but the truth is every time that I've really seen someone be consistent and tell me that, it's always their hormones. And I always tell them, go to your doctor, get your hormones checked. And that is a great route to take. But the one thing that's great about this company and what they're doing is a lot of people, don't have good insurance or don't know what doctor to go to, don't know what tests to ask for their hormone panel, don't have a doctor that actually shows them where their levels are at afterwards, exactly how, where they should be and what they can do to fix it. And this makes it affordable. So everyone can do that. So you can have the peace of mind of knowing where your hormones are at and what you can do to make sure you're in an optimal position to see results if you are exercising and eating healthy, because you're fighting against a brick wall if your hormones are in balance, period.
Exactly, guys. So here's the cool thing. Go to everlywell.com. That's EVERLYWELL.com /fit to fat to fit, like my brand. Or type in the code fit to fat to fit at checkout for a discount, you guys, that's exclusive to you followers. So everlywell.com/fit-to-fat-to-fit, or use my discount code fit-to-fat-to-fit on any of their tests that are available, and there will be more tests coming.
Awesome. You guys, our other show sponsor is questnutrition.com. We'll have that in the show notes. You guys know that I am a huge lover of Quest Nutrition. I've been using their protein products for years. Of course, they just started with their protein bars, which are still a favorite of mine. And I like to preach about how it is so convenient to have this type of quality source protein on you. Of course, we all like to eat whole foods, but the fact is we're on the go so much. I know I am. And so having these protein bars in your purse, in your car, at the office will help you avoid the fast food trap. And what's great about them is they taste good. For a lot of people, they satisfy that sweet tooth craving. I personally love, for example, their cookie dough bars are my favorite. But in addition to that, they're high in fiber, they're low in sugar, they're high in protein. So they're a great go-to snack. I also really love their Quest chips. I actually put that in the Quest chips in my daughter's school lunch every day. She loves them, and it's a great way for her to feel like she's getting the kind of treat that other kids get, but it's actually a lot healthier for her. So go check them out, questnutrition.com.
Yep, and they have some cool keto snacks now, you guys. You can check them out at questnutrition.com/Quest Labs for all their keto products. So if you're into the keto lifestyle like I am, you can definitely sample some of their stuff, which is amazing. It tastes really, really good. Even Lynn likes them. Mm-hmm. So, all right, let's jump into today's episode with Mike Bledsoe. All right, Mike Bledsoe, thank you so much for joining us here on the Fit to Fat to Fit Experience podcast. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, man. No, it's our pleasure, man. We appreciate you coming on. We're big fans of what you do, and I appreciate you taking some time out of your day. So now you're out in Memphis, right?
I'm actually in Southern California. I live in a small town, Encinitas, just north of San Diego.
I love Encinitas.
Oh, SoCal. Yeah, we're actually both
from there.
For some reason, I thought I read that you were from Memphis, but I guess that's where you grew up, right?
Yeah, that was it's probably just an old bio. So I moved from there about 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. That's probably what it was. So you like Southern California versus Tennessee?
The weather's nice. Yeah, there's several things going on here I prefer.
Yeah.
Sun and surfing.
We both grew up there. I grew up in San Diego. Lynn grew up in San Dimas, so we're definitely big fans of it. We're not big fans of the traffic or the cost of living, but
everything else.
Everything else. Beautiful weather.
Yeah, I managed to stay out of the city, so I think I'm doing okay.
Yeah. So just to introduce you to our listeners a little bit, obviously, I know a little bit about you, and I know about your podcast, Barbell, Shrugged. I've listened to a lot of episodes on that. Tell us a little bit about your past and you growing up. You went into the Navy after high school, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Before I started training, I wanted to train so badly. I think I was probably about 13 when I saw some fitness magazines at the grocery store, and I wanted to do that. And my parents told me, you'll stunt your growth. You can't lift weights until you're, and they set the arbitrary age of 15. I think part of that was the local gym said that if you were going to be in the gym by yourself, you had to be at least 15 years old. So yeah, I was like, I think I was obsessed with it before I was able to really start. And, on my 15th birthday, I walked into the gym and started lifting weights based on whatever was in the magazines. I did go into the Navy. I made a swing at the Navy SEAL program, got hurt. I was going to have to begin training, during Hell Week. And they were like, oh, we're just going to roll you back to the beginning. And I was like, no, you have defeated me.
Wow.
Yeah, went to the fleet for 3 years after that. Enjoyed my time there. Did a lot of training. Mostly like bodybuilding type program and running and swimming. It was the majority of my training while I was in the Navy. Got out of the Navy, went to school to focus on, I just started in the business program. After one semester of business, an accounting class, defeated me, and I was like, oh wait, there's an exercise science program at the school. I have no idea what you do with that, but that seems like a lot cooler than these arbitrary numbers on this credits and debits page. So I switched to exercise science program, where I thought I knew everything. And then I was served a dish of humble pie when day one of the weightlifting 101 class I had to take for that program was Olympic weightlifting, actually. And I had no idea what it was. So it was snatch and clean and jerk. So I fell in love with that like day one. And then about a year and a half later, I discovered CrossFit. And while I'm in school, I opened up the first CrossFit box in Memphis, Tennessee. I was going to University of Memphis at the time. I ran that box from 2007 to around 2012. And in 2012, we started the Barbell Shrug podcast, started traveling a lot and really pursuing that, and the Barbell Shrug podcast really was amazing for me. I think I learned more about not just fitness and nutrition, but also just life in general. And more in 4 years of doing that show than I had, the previous 30 years. And that was just due to interacting with people who were the best at what they did on a weekly basis. So it was, I've been very fortunate to had the exposure to health and fitness and performance like I have over the last couple decades.
That's awesome. So what's your philosophy? Like if you had to sum it up, and I know this is probably a larger question that you could break down to many components, but if you had to sum up your fitness philosophy, like what you educate people on or want people to focus more on, whether it's hopefully a little bit of both exercise and nutrition, what would that be?
Well, before you answer that, Mike, I know that you've kind of evolved over the years. So maybe talk a little bit about like your old philosophy and kind of where you're at now and why that's changed. Yeah, that'd be awesome to talk about.
Probably I would say it's a 180 in regard to how I would say in my earlier years I wouldn't even call it a philosophy. It was just no pain, no gain. It was very I was very brutal to myself in regard to training, and I was brutal to other people as well.
How so? What do you mean brutal? Like extremely strict, or?
Yeah, it was. Well, I would say I was much more brutal on myself, but I really try to progress people and myself more quickly than was appropriate. I was just very, very aggressive, and I think this is common amongst strength coaches as a whole. Is the older they get, the more conservative they become. And when you're younger and invincible, it's the amount of poor movement that is allowed is greater than as you get older. After you accrue a few injuries, you're like, oh, maybe I should consider quality of movement over intensity. I grew up, I would say my philosophy was as long as you're keeping it 85% clean on your movement, then keep ramping up the intensity until you drop below 80%. Ooh. And I would say that where I've gravitated to now is more of like a 99%. The quality of movement during a training session is of the utmost importance. And there was just a lot of things I was not paying attention to when I was younger. In regard to, I would say that I moved from a place of quantity to now a philosophy of quality. And so, a lot of what I did was, was more about the weight on the bar or the speed at which we were doing things and things like that. And nowadays it's more about, seeking the quality of movement and then consistency and frequency. I think a lot of times people put a lot of emphasis on intensity, but they completely ignore the fact that if you're not consistent, moving with frequency and with high quality, all of that's just it's not a great path to be on. And so over time, and this is in regard to nutrition as well. There was a period of time where I was hyper focused on macronutrients, and I wanted to get 200 grams of protein a day and X amount of carbs and X amount of fat. And I did care about the quality of those macronutrients for sure. And I was making better choices than a lot of people and suggesting better choices than a lot of other people. However, as time's gone on, my focus on the quality of my nutrition is much higher. It used to be like, what's the best whey protein I can get my hands on? And now it's more along the lines of, what vitamins, minerals can I get from natural foods? I just shot a morning smoothie video where I'm basically sharing my morning smoothie, which is basically just jam-packed with as many superfoods as possible and high-quality ingredients.
Can you share it with us right now?
Yeah. Well, it's actually it's a ridiculously lengthy morning. I think my morning smoothie, if you were to add up all the supplements and the cost, it costs about $15 a morning.
Whoa. Whoa. I'm really curious. I feel like you need to share at least. I think you need to share what's in this smoothie.
Yeah. And as an example, my old morning smoothie was like, okay, I'm just putting in like the Costco whey protein and I put some kale in there, but and I just got whatever blueberries or whatever was at the store. And now I'm much more selective. I use the entire ingredient. Actually, I can pull this up right now because I just sent the recipe to my friend. So I do 12 ounces of water, 1 tablespoon of coconut oil, 5 grams of creatine, 1 tablespoon of Metamorphosis by a company called Elemental Wisdom, and it's got spirulina, pine pollen, and a bunch of different medicinal mushrooms. So it's got cordyceps, lion's mane, shiitake, reishi, a lot of those types of mushrooms in there. I do about 2 to 3 tablespoons of raw cacao. I do a scoop of Vital Proteins greens, which is a collagen supplement. It's greens and collagen. So I use their stuff. I use my main protein source for that smoothie is probably split between, I get about 20 grams from the Vital Proteins, and then I get another 20 grams from Roots Nutrition. And that protein is egg whites with, and then it's got some Sacha Inchi and some hemp protein in it as well. One of the big reasons I switched to that from like, say, whey proteins, I did a whey protein for like 18 years and, powdering down milk and then delivering it. We don't know exactly, people have only been mass consuming that for maybe 10, 15 years. So, I have some reservations about long-term effects and the fact that I was taking it 2 or 3 times a day. So, most people don't take protein shakes 2 or 3 times a day, but if you're a competitive athlete, that happens. So for me, a lot of it's just kind of like dialing back anything I used to do and upping things that are new. I also do I'd probably closer to 2 or 3 tablespoons of raw almond butter. I kind of eye that. I love my fat. And then I do a cup of frozen mixed berries, mostly blueberries and blackberries. And then I do 2 stalks of kale. So that's what the morning smoothie looks like.
Man, you were lying about all those superfoods, man. Like I can relate to that, and I sometimes put superfoods in my smoothies. They've evolved.
I want to know how
it
tastes.
Yeah, how does it taste?
Really good. I
really
serve it to my friends on occasion, and they love it. Nobody gives me a weird look, and I've definitely made a lot of smoothies in the past where it was not easy to get down. But yeah, that's kind of the morning smoothie compared to, it used to be, I would just like put a can of coconut oil or a can of coconut milk, 2 scoops of protein, some spinach and some blueberries would be like the old version. And now I'm like seeking out the highest quality stuff. And a lot of things that are in my smoothie are, it's because I've talked to the people who have developed the supplements and who are doing the research. And the research and the studies they're either not being done or it's 5 years off before it's popular. So if you want to find cutting edge health and nutrition, the last place you should look at is the scientific studies, because the scientific studies are, they're based on what people are trying. You know, there's somebody out there playing around intuitively with some of these medicinal mushrooms and seeing the benefits it has for mental acuity, for skin health, joint health, digestive health. And there's all these factors that they're looking into. And a lot of these things are good for more than just one thing. So in order for us to fund the studies for the next 5 years to get these things done, is going to cost millions of dollars. And so the way the system is set up right now is somebody has to make money off the product before they can fund the study to say that the product works. So if you're only looking at scientific research for finding out what it is you should be putting in your body, you're already 10 years behind. So in the way that I approach nutrition and supplementation is, yes, I will do everything the studies say. I look at the research and I've covered all my bases there. And I spent a decade of my life like really making sure I have everything the research says dialed in. And now that I have everything the research says dialed in, I understand that, and I understand how it impacts my body personally, and I know how to conduct case studies on myself. I now go into, I'm now playing around with, I'm hanging out with people who are going, yeah, I intuitively thought this was a good idea. I started taking this and I saw these benefits, and we are collecting some research on it now, but it's not so much research that it's just the journalists are going crazy over it. So what I'm doing is I'm hanging out with those guys and going, you know what? I'm going to add this to my smoothie this month. I'm going to do this supplement for 1 month and see how I look, feel, and perform. And sure enough, that's kind of how I'm coming to conclusions around my own stuff, is just treating myself as a guinea pig all the time.
I'm curious then, especially with all these different products and supplements, and you testing this obviously on your body. And of course, everybody's different. I like to tell people that same thing. Like the biggest thing is there's no one perfect thing for everybody, exercise or nutrition wise, because of course you need to try it out and see how it affects your body. If you had to pick, let's say 3 to 5 things that you've implemented into your nutrition, supplement wise, vitamin wise, that you have felt has made the biggest impact on your body, and why, what would that be? You got it. You got to select a few, because people ask us about supplements all the time, and they see what you're just saying, like all the research. Oh, everyone's doing coconut oil. Why are they doing that? Everyone's using spirulina. Why are they doing that? If you had to choose a few key things and explain like what the benefits are and how that's really you've seen or felt a noticeable difference, I'd be curious to see what you'd pick.
Okay. So my very favorite, so I won't name an ingredient because, well, I'll name a product.
Okay.
And I'll send you guys a link to this product. It's called Qualia, and that's Qualia, by a company called Neurohacker Collective. And so a lot of, well, we can go back to like where my philosophy is now. A lot of where my attention is being drawn at this moment is achieving flow states as a choice. So a lot of times people get into flow states by accident. They're playing their sport and then they're like, wow, I was just kind of in flow. And people get to experience that maybe once or twice a year. And what I've been looking into is how to achieve that as a choice. And not only achieving that during an athletic moment, but just as you're working, if you're doing your job, achieving flow in a meeting, achieving flow as you're reading or learning or something like that. So this particular supplement, Folia, is set with the intention of it's called a nootropic, is the category or the class of substances it would fall under, which is normally associated with cognitive enhancement. So the idea is you have better focus, maybe creativity, things like that. So what's really cool about this supplement, and I've been taking it since around January. So I know the guy who developed it, and I started playing around with it before it made it to the market. So I've got 2 or 3 months on everybody else. But the the thing that sold me on the most is the intent of the supplement is to build the support structures and the hardware in the body on which the things that we found consciousness resides on. So the idea that it builds up the mind-body connection. So there's a few things we have to understand before you even consider like having this conversation, and that is that we are not really our body, and we are not our mind. We are something else. And I know this is true is because I've been able to observe both my mind and my body without being identified as either. So what this supplement allows us to do is what it allows me to do is more readily jump into that observer perspective where I am not identifying with my mind or my body. And then I'm also able to direct my attention into a physical thing or a mental thing, and with 100% focus. And so it really, the quality of your mind is going to be dependent on the quality of your body for sure. And so this really helps build up that connection. And for me, the fact that I am able to achieve more focus now during my movement practice allows me to be in better shape than I've ever been. I move with much higher quality and with a lot of focus on breath. And my mind isn't drifting during a training session, which means that I'm now getting much better results, way less pain. I don't do dumb things. I don't move improperly. Again, it directs my focus 100%. So this supplement not only helps me during my workouts, but as you can imagine, helps me in just my job, just the things that I do on a daily basis, my interactions. So what I like most about the supplement is the first intent of the supplement is to build up the hardware structures that your consciousness resides on. And we could say your consciousness is the thing that is not your mind or your body. That is is truly you. So,
which a lot of people use something like meditation to connect with that. So, yes, and we've talked a lot about that on the podcast. So people have listened for a while. This is not maybe as woo-woo of a topic as maybe others. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have a morning meditation practice. I do a lot of breath work as well. I find that breath work is the quickest way for me to access consciousness outside of the mind and body. So this supplement actually helps out a lot. So for me, there's about 40 different ingredients. You have to take it before you, it's like I take step 1 before breakfast and step 2 after breakfast. So I basically take 3 pills when I wake up, and then an hour later I drink that smoothie I just mentioned, and then I pop step 2 of the supplement. And the reason there's 2 steps is some of the ingredients would be competing. And then the other thing is some of the ingredients might upset your stomach. So it's good to do it if you have some fat in your belly.
Yeah. So quick question about this, because we've had some people on talking about these nootropics or, this category of supplements that are new, right? They're up and coming. Do you feel like this is where the supplement industry is headed? Because how many, new proteins or amino acids or, pre-workouts can we come up with before, I in my opinion, it's way oversaturated right now, the supplement industry. Do you feel like this is where supplements are going and these smart drugs?
I think more people are becoming aware of the entire system versus focusing on the recovery of your muscle belly. And so with that being the case, I think that the variety of supplements that are going to be on the market is going to start growing rapidly. Now, something like nootropics is still in the early adopter phase. And I think supplements like the one I was just talking about, this particular company is going to do a better job of saying, hey, this is a good place to start. Because with nootropics specifically, it's such an early adopter thing that what was working last month or the thing that was popular last month is no longer popular. It's this other thing. And I think it's actually going to get bigger. I think there's going to be a larger percentage of the population that buys a lot of the more bodybuilder-ish supplements. And then there's going to be another segment of the population that's going to gravitate more towards what I would call, just healthy, trying to think of the entire body as a system, including the mind and body as something to consider versus just, what can make this muscle recover after I did deadlifts yesterday. So I do think that there's going to be, I think a market is being created. I'm not sure the market is going to shift. So I think there's going to be a certain percentage of people, a smaller percentage that are going to gravitate towards this type of thing. And then there's always going to be the same old going on. Supplement companies, they need to change their branding every 2 or 3 years because people get sick of seeing it, certain markets, So, it's kind of like a nightclub. What nightclub is popular for more than 2 years? People get tired of seeing the same thing. So the nightclub doesn't go out of business. What the nightclub does is it changes the sign on the front. It shuts down for a few months. It redoes their entire interior, so on and so forth. And then they reopen. Everyone thinks a new nightclub opened, but it's the same owners, it's the same people running it, but they know they have to keep it changing every once in a while. Supplement companies are the same way. If you watch people who own the companies, like anyone who's been in the industry for say 20 years, they've owned 5 to 10 supplement companies. They build it up to a certain point. They see that the brand can diminish over time. They get out and then they do it again.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I'm curious, kind of going back to what you use and what you've seen a difference for so many of our listeners that don't spend a lot of money on buying actual supplements, but instead are looking to try to improve or enhance, whether it's their health or performance through different superfoods. Is there something that you've integrated? A lot of people, for example, have been on a kick, like a coconut oil. Everyone should be having more coconut oil. Are there any type of foods that are more readily available to people that they could just integrate into their nutrition plan that you think is really beneficial, and why?
Yeah. Well, one thing I want to mention is having an awareness around how things make you feel. And that's kind of why I listed that supplement as the first one. How it makes you feel, like being tuned in with when you take a supplement or a food, and checking in with yourself and going, how do I feel after taking this? 30 minutes later, an hour and a half later, that night, how did you sleep? The next day, how do you feel? And so I think a lot of people just do what they're told versus take the supplement and really check in with themselves and see what is the impact the supplement is having on me versus just saying, you know what, they said it was good for me. I'm supposed to take this protein, so on and so forth. I'll just take it. I take this pre-workout. I'm amped up, but don't realize they can't sleep well that night. It's like, well, your recovery is shit, but you can really, attack the workout. That's a problem. As far as a supplement that makes the biggest difference.
Or anything.
Well, you
any
mentioned
type of food, even
Sacha,
for example,
you mentioned spirulina.
Or even something more regular. Like some people are like, oh, cinnamon has so much benefits, or coconut has so much benefits, or.
I would say the thing that I've taken most recently that had the biggest benefit is that mushroom mix. That I was just talking about. It's called Metamorphosis. Is the name of the supplement, and it. When I started taking that, I actually saw my body started adapting to my training faster. I got leaner really quick. I noticed that the things, I'm always looking for asymmetries in my body and looking to fix them. Something that might take me 6 or 12 weeks to catch up. When I started supplementing with the Metamorphosis, I noticed that my ability to adapt happened a lot quicker. And so there were some things that were just even my nervous system felt like it was adapting more quickly. And so a lot of this is kind of hard to describe because I'm pretty tuned into how things make me feel, and most people are not. Sometimes when I get talking about it, I recognize that some people are like, I might be losing people. Well, it makes feel this way. And I think a lot of times we've been taught since we were kids to ignore how we feel, when that's going to be one of the biggest predictors of what's actually happening. because that tells you what's happening without any of these stories that we create in our minds about why something is happening. And so,
yeah, well, I think like your average consumer, they, maybe they aren't in tune with their mind body connection, right? And so they don't realize how certain things make them feel. Whereas something that's super simple, like caffeine, for example, is like, oh, everybody's going to feel this. Right. So I was like, boom, let's just add more of it. And then boom, people will be like, oh, this is amazing.
That's a problem I have with a lot of supplements. People are like, oh, the supplements are awesome. I feel amazing. I'm like, well, sure, they dump 200 milligrams of caffeine in there. How are you not going to feel that? And for me personally, I don't consume afternoon if I want to sleep that night. Another thing I've put in my diet recently that was a really big benefit was raw cacao. So I put the raw cacao in a smoothie, and then I don't really drink very much anymore. I mean, there was a time when I was in the Navy, I was a sailor, and I drank like one. And over time, I've kind of realized that that's not really the best thing for me. So, for instance, I went out on Saturday night. I went to a house party. And what I did not do was consume any alcohol. But what I did do was I made a raw cacao drink that was pretty high dose raw cacao. And that will give you some energy. That will put you in a really positive mood. There's a lot of benefits to that just from a mood perspective. And if I'm going to go hang out with a bunch of my friends, a little bit of cacao is super beneficial. So I'll actually, before I go out, and then not only that, things like being leaner and stuff helps with that. So I'll drink raw cacao that's super healthy instead of, alcohol or something like that. I also supplement with CBD, cannabidiol, with oils and with vapes. And so I find that with CBD, it helps me sleep much better. Anytime I supplement with CBD, my nervous system down regulates and allows me to recover much more quickly. These are things that are happening with the nervous system, and then the hormones in my body are way more important to me now than how much protein am I getting. So it's like, how is this impacting my mood? How is this impacting, does it make me feel heavy? If you're taking supplements or eating meals where you just feel heavy for like 2 hours afterwards, that's a sign you might need to lighten up somewhere or change the ingredients or something like that.
Yeah. Now, CBD, for those that don't know, is the non-psychedelic part of marijuana, right? So it's not the THC that's going to get you a high. You're not getting high off of CBD, right? But it does give you the health benefits, right? So sleep is one of those anti-inflammatory benefits too, right?
Yeah, and because it helps downregulate your nervous system, it definitely helps. It is a mood enhancer without the, like you were saying, the psychoactive effects of THC. And we're really fortunate now, it being 2016, that CBD is now legal in all 50 states, and you can order it online and have it shipped to you, and it's beautiful. The two ways I consume it is as an oil or as a vape. So I do both. I want to note that, and gets said a lot, is, that it has people say, oh, it has all the health benefits of marijuana without the psychoactive effect. And that's not really true. There are a ton of benefits to the other parts of the marijuana plant, the cannabis plant. There's way more benefits to THC and other parts of the cannabis plant that are still illegal. And so it's really easy for us to say, oh, look, the CBD is non-psychoactive and it's good for you. It doesn't have the THC, so you're fine. I think there's a lot of health benefits to THC as well. And that's the part of the plant that the governments are so terrified of for some. And so I just want to note that I think that there's a massive amount of benefit from THC as well that's going unrecognized.
Yeah, no, I think we're in the same boat as you, but things take time, especially when it comes to the government to get things approved, and then the big companies come into play as well. So, no, I appreciate you kind of sharing your wisdom with us and what you've learned, and kind of going back to what you started out saying is you become your own guinea pig, your own and self-experimentation. This is one of the things I try and get people to do, is to learn how to become their own self-experimentation, to find out what is optimal for them, because they're listening to me or you or people in the industry like, oh, here's these these new mushroom supplements, or here there's CBD, there's spirulina, there's all these things. Like, which direction do I go? Right? It feels so overwhelming for people. It's like, well, just start out very simple. Find out what works best for you. Do it for a minimum of 30 days straight.
Yep.
And don't just weigh yourself. There's so many other ways to measure progress in your life other than the scale. And so it's hard to get people to do that, but I think people are starting to realize, okay, the self-experimentation thing, there's value behind it, because I can't just always take what a doctor says or what some a podcaster or fitness guru says. I got to find out for myself. And so I think that's what your goal is. That's what my goal is, to get people on board with that and really find what works best for them, what's optimal for them.
Yeah. And I really like that a lot of what you're talking about is more about the mind-body connection, because I feel like, actually, I'm really pleasantly surprised with a lot of the people we've talked to. I feel like the industry is actually heading a little bit more that direction than before, where it's all just about, exercise, like you're saying, pushing your limits and eating a certain way, like, oh, you must eat paleo. Because we've actually had a lot of people on our podcast that talked more about the mind-body connection. And it's kind of amazing when you get to that point and you're able to more be in tune with your body and your mind and focus a little bit more on that, like you were saying, consciousness, that the benefits you have. Because I actually got a funny snap today from a girl that follows my Snapchat, and the most common question I get snapped about is, how do you eat like that? Or how do you live your life like this and you look like you do? And people hate my answer. They hate it because I usually just say, meditation, de-stressing, good sleep. I also eat veggies, even though I also eat donuts, mind-body connection. I'm happy. I'm like, honestly, like I'm the most fit I've been, even though technically I probably eat more sugar or exercise less, but I'm happier than I've ever been. And I talk a lot about that mind-body connection, and people are like, oh. Like they hate that answer. They're like, oh.
Yeah, they want a meal plan.
They want me to say something about, like, I'm in the gym for 2 hours a day and I'm doing CrossFit, and I'm like, no, that's not it. I really feel like if people focus a little bit more on that mind-body connection and being in tune with their body and more intuitively eating and exercising, that they would see more progress.
Yeah, it's an evolution of the industry as a whole. It's an evolution of individuals reaching a certain point, and enough individuals in the industry reaching that point where it's becoming a common conversation. And I usually encourage, we tend to see things for the surface, right? So we have different levels of consciousness, and when people are focused on what's happening on the external, and so they're focused on, why is this belly fat not coming off? They're focused on this or that, and they're focused even on how much weight is on the bar when I'm doing a back squat or something like that. Their focus is on this external thing, and they're basically, I won't say I'll say that I used to, I won't project my life on others, but I used to punish my body for not being good enough. And then what that's evolved to is realizing that there are deeper roots in me. There's deep roots around how I view myself and view my body, where I've learned to be more kind to myself. And then I was also, I've had a few experiences where I was shown how the quality of my mind could be much better. And I started focusing on the quality of my mind. And what's been interesting is, as I've cleaned up the quality of my mind, the quality of my body has automatically stepped in line. Some of the things you were talking about, stress. When I would say there are things that I manage now. I have a company. I have 20 people in the company. Not everybody is happy all the time. And 2, 3, 4 years ago, when those types of events were happening, it would stress me out. And I think that had my previous self been in the place I am now, I would not handle things nearly as well. And so all that has to do with the quality of my mind, which in turn causes me to have good cortisol levels. Mm-hmm.
For those that don't know, cortisol is a stress-induced hormone.
Yeah. And so, and having that one thing out of balance will throw all the other hormones out of balance. And so, For me, it's like it's one of those things is like, oh, we're trying to get somewhere with our bodies. And so we're just hyper focused on our body. And then at some point, a lot of fitness professionals, they've been in it for 10, 15, 20 years. They've kind of done all the body stuff they could do, and they go, where else can I improve? And I think that people are then directing their attention toward the quality of their mind. And then they have this huge awakening around, oh, the quality of my mind and the quality of my body are intertwined. And there's this aspect of my life I've been neglecting for 20, 30, 40 years. I now put my attention on it, and now my body is going through this transformation in a way that I was not even focused on it. So for me personally, my body went through a transformation when I put my focus on the quality of my mind. And it, without even putting a plan in place to be in better shape. It was just like, I just started making better choices every day, things that I already knew was good for me. I was able to make the better choice. And yeah, it was just really, really good.
Yeah, I kind of want to, if you don't mind, I want to back up to your story because I and you've already talked about this a little bit. You used to be of this old bodybuilding style philosophy and, more weight on the bar and, kind of punish your body. And that's the reason I kind of brought you on was because I can totally relate to that. And that's how I used to be is, even though I looked great, I punished my body, and not out of a place of love for my body, but out of a place of kind of hate. Like, you need to be better. You're not good enough.
Right.
And I want to know for you, what was the flip that was switched? Like, when did it start to transition to this more focus on mind body connection, longevity, and getting out of that ego of, how much weight can you lift? What was that flip, that switch for you?
A series of humbling experiences, picking up practices like meditation, going places like Peru and doing plant medicines with shamans. I would say they all played a role. I would say the biggest thing for me was it was a combination of two things. One is just directing my attention to the quality of my mind. And I would say that I've refined the quality of my mind and found a lot of joy in getting there, because anytime you start focusing on the quality of your mind, you become happier. And it feels good to be happier. So there was a point where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do a lot of things to help me be happier, because when I'm happier, I can be more productive, so on and so forth. And my focus wasn't actually on my physical being at all when I got down that path. So it was a mix between meditation and then plant medicines, maybe going to Peru, doing ayahuasca, and kind of like seeing my life from a more objective perspective, and what got me to where I am now, helped me to get in that better mindset. And then I also, about 2 years ago, stopped competing in the sport of weightlifting. And 2 years ago, I stopped competing, and I had, because I went in, I had a hernia. I ended up having 3 hernias. And so,
whoa.
Yeah. And I was lifting the most weight I'd ever lifted. I was the strongest I'd ever been in my entire life. I was almost the heaviest I'd ever been in my entire life. And I was competing at a pretty high level, and I was just bursting at the seams, literally. And I stopped competing. I started, but it was all kind of, I would say in the last 3.5 years, there's been this focus on meditation, the quality of my mind, and then also stepping out of competition. And I noticed that when I'm competing, I'm trying to ride a different kind of line. And there's a difference between performance and health. And to think that health definitely should be at the base, and performance resides on top of that. But if you're looking to put as much weight on the bar as possible for a given competition, to think that is also you're at peak health is a naive perspective. And so anybody who gets into this long enough realizes that these two things are not the same. And some people can perform at a high level for a short period of time without that consideration. So for me, it was, I noticed that when I was not competing, I took much better care of myself. I noticed that I was happier. And so for me, and I don't think this is the right answer for everybody, I think competition can be really healthy and fun. And you may see me compete again one day, who knows? But for this point in my life, cutting out the competition and then focusing on the quality of my mind has made the biggest impact.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, that's really powerful what you said, the difference between performance and health. And I think that's great for people to realize. I mean, even if they're not a competitive athlete, we automatically think, if we have great performance, that our health is great. But no, man, you probably look at a lot of even professional athletes. Yeah, they perform awesome, but I guarantee you their health is not, they're not where it should. If you got them tested, I'm pretty sure most of them, based off their nutrition protocol and, just their overall mind-body connection. Yeah, they're performing really great, and you probably see it as well working in the industry too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think some of the people that do compete at the highest level, Rich Froning for the CrossFit Games or something like that, I think he probably has a better mind-body connection than the average person. He just, it may not have been intentional, but I do think that's what's separating, the greats from the goods a lot of times. And it's not something they've intentionally done. It just, somehow is in the way they were raised, or there was a coach or two along the way that really helped them refine that, or it's something they just naturally gravitate towards. So I definitely noticed that I've trained with, some of the best in the world, a guy like Rich Froning. I've trained with him, and I noticed that his focus is different than, say, the average CrossFitter. Yeah.
No, I can only imagine. I've met him before, and he's just on a whole nother level.
And I just think it's a good, a way to kind of gauge that is for people to ask themselves questions. Like if you're listening to this podcast, if you're training and if you're struggling, if you're feeling stressed all the time, if you're not sleeping well, if you feel extreme exhaustion and fatigue, that's probably a sign that you're not treating your body the way it needs to be treated. Go get your hormones tested. Go, maybe try something out new, take a week rest from doing the training that you're doing. You shouldn't, when people tell me, well, I know I'm healthy because I'm eating paleo and I'm CrossFitting 5 times a week, but I can barely open my eyes. I have extreme fatigue in the afternoon and I can't sleep at night. I'm like, that's actually a sign that your body's not doing that great. Just because you're exercising doesn't mean, like we're talking about, doesn't mean you're healthy.
Yeah. And a lot of times people don't even know they've been fatigued for so long and it kind of crept in, they don't even recognize it.
Right. And they're just basking it with coffee.
Yeah. Nobody even knows that they're actually completely exhausted until they get into a place where they're not exhausted. And they're like, how was I living that way? I use, I want to go back to this real quick. There was something I was wanting to mention was, if we were to make one habit change, every month for the next year, that's 12 positive habits. That's amazing progress. That's incredible. And I use this thing called the Sleep Cycle app, and you can track your sleep and how things impacted your day, but you can also track a lot of other things. I can put in there, I can customize my stuff. Did I drink alcohol today? How did that impact my sleep? Did I have sex? Was it AM, PM sex? And then, how does that impact my rest and my recovery? And then, and it just kind of brings my awareness to what I'm doing day after day. And then another thing that I really like about that app is in the morning, first thing in the morning, it takes my heart rate and it asks me my mood for the day. And so, it's like, did I wake up happy? Apathetic or sad, and I'm just like, I just select one of these 3. And so I can start drawing conclusions between things. Just kind of going back to the self case study thing. I definitely want to make sure to mention that.
Cool. No, we'll put a link in the show notes to the app. Actually,
Definitely.
Just looked it up right
That's
now.
Awesome.
I'm downloading it just to check it out. But we're kind of running short on time here, Michael, and we'll let you go. But before we go, just a couple last lightning round questions for you that we always ask all of our
I don't know if you ever listen to our podcast, but at the very end of our show, we like to do the lightning round. So here's what it is. We're just going to ask you a few quick, fun questions. Mostly they will have no real relevance. We just enjoy it. You need to answer them as quickly as possible, as quick as possible, as honestly as possible. You prepared? You ready?
I've got a little bit of fear. I feel a little bit of fear in my belly.
Awesome. Drew, do you want to start? You want me to start?
You go ahead.
If you could be any animal, what would you be?
Dolphin.
Oh, me too. Same. Okay, sorry. Continue.
Spirit animal.
That's my spirit animal.
What is your go-to cheat meal food that you just you can't stop eating?
I know this is going to sound terrible. Just yogurt and granola with berries. I mean, it's not really unhealthy.
Yeah.
That's probably like
That's the worst answer ever, Mike. That was the worst answer ever.
No, but I know what he's saying. I know what he means. Like, it's not that unhealthy, but granola's got a bunch of added sugar.
Oh my gosh.
I know what he's saying.
Okay, you two.
I just don't eat bad food anymore. It doesn't give me the same kick it used to.
Everybody, we're going to pretend that was never asked. We're moving on to the next question. What is your favorite trashy television show? It can't be good. It can't be like it. No, it needs to be trashy.
Oh,
I don't want to hear National Geographic. I love that show, but no, I want to hear if there's something that you watch that's trashy.
I mean South Park, but I really don't consider South Park trashy because it's like a really good commentary on our society. That would be like closest thing to trash. I mean, I think a lot of other people would consider it to be a trashy television show for sure.
Fantastic. That was a good one. That was a good one.
Okay, Mike, have you ever been overweight in your life?
I don't think I've ever been over maybe 12% body fat.
Wow.
So I don't think, yeah. No.
That's awesome. No, first of all, that's awesome. The reason I asked that is obviously, this whole podcast and my brand is based off of my Fit to Fat to Fit journey where I let myself go for 6 months.
Yeah.
Do you think that could be one of your next self-experimentations is let yourself go for 6 months, no exercise, eat a typical American diet, and then see how quickly you could get back to under 12%?
Not a chance. I saw you do that, and I couldn't comprehend it. That would probably be the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. I mean, how hard was that?
It really was. It really was the hardest thing because that's the thing is I've never been overweight, and so I never knew any different. I've always been in shape, and it just was such an eye-opener, and it was way harder than I ever imagined. I mean, because in our minds, we kind of think, oh, yeah, we could eat all that food. We feel good for a minute, but then it would suck. You get sick of the food. You feel horrible. I've never felt so worse physically, mentally, emotionally in my life during that period of time where I was 75 pounds overweight, and I didn't know if I would be able to lose the weight. So it's super scary, risky. It's not fun, but at the same time, it definitely humbled me. And at the time, I think I needed to be humbled because kind of like what you were saying in the beginning is like you expected people that you were training to kind of have the same philosophy that you did. Like, hey, just push yourself harder. What's wrong with you? It's not that hard. Stop eating the junk food. Train harder. You're going to see results. But there's so much more to it, and I didn't understand that until I went through this and realized more of the mental and emotional struggles that people go through when it comes to overcoming food and overcoming the mental and emotional challenges that people have until I did this. So it was something I needed to go through. Not saying everybody needs to go through it, but I always ask everybody that comes on the show, like, do you think you could do it? But it is scary as hell.
Yeah, I mean, I never want to say never because that means it'll end up happening. But
well, maybe for season 3, man. We'll see how season 2 goes with my TV show. We'll see if you'd be up for maybe trying out for season 3. Mike Bledsoe from Barbell Shrugged is on season 3.
I'm not sure my wife would let that happen.
She wouldn't.
And you know what? Actually. She's in charge. So I'm going to say the answer's no.
Lynn would talk her into not letting you, of course, because she knows how hard it was from her perspective too. Like having to deal with me, whining and complaining all the time.
There should never. Yeah, it was too much. It was too much hormones in one house. That's for sure.
I could see that. Yeah, life is too good. I don't know if I don't think there's enough money you could throw at me to make me even want to do that. You could say like it's $1 billion. I would be like, I just couldn't do it.
Yeah. You'd think about it for $1 billion. Come on.
At least.
Everybody does have a price. That's true. We don't know what mine is yet.
All right. Well, Mike, before we go, let people know where they can find you on social media, your websites, all that.
Yeah. Check us out, barbellshrug.com. If you're a gym owner or you're in the fitness business at all, Go to barbellbusiness.com. Check us out. You just search social media for those two. That'd be good. My personal Instagram is Mike_Bledsoe. Twitter is Michael_Bledsoe. And then you can follow me on my Facebook. Is facebook.com/Bledsopia is my fan page. So
awesome.
Cool, man. Well, we appreciate you coming on, Mike. We had a great time, man. We learned a lot, and I know that our followers learned a lot. And that's the thing, like you said, like I've learned so much doing these podcasts versus like all the education I've had before.
Yeah,
my life.
absolutely.
So,
Hearing different people's perspectives and stuff. Yeah,
man.
absolutely. Love to hear your story and your perspective. And I'm sure like there's going to be a ton of people Googling all those products. Just to be like, what?
Well, Mike, send me the link when that recipe's up, and we'll put it in the show notes maybe before this episode airs for that shake.
Yeah, for sure. I'll do that.
The $15 breakfast shake.
Yes. It's totally worth it.
I'll have to try it once.
Like that, so it works out.
I'll have to try it once.
Okay, man.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
All right, guys.
We'll talk to you soon.
ya.
Bye. Hey, you guys. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode with Mike Bledsoe from Barbell Shrugged. We really hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please feel free to share it on social media. Also, we'd appreciate your support by going to iTunes and subscribing to our podcast and leaving us a review, please, so that that definitely helps out with rankings and things like that, and just lets iTunes know that people like us. So we'd appreciate that. If you feel like you find value in our podcast, we don't want you to lie for us. If you hate us, then obviously don't. But if you do, then please support us by doing that. We appreciate any and all support you guys give us, especially throughout the years. I can't believe Fit to Fat to Fit, my brand has become what it is, and it's because of you guys. So thank you so much for all that you guys have done for us, and all the support throughout the years. Okay, to stay in touch, you guys, you know me. My social media is at Fit to Fat to Fit. My website is fittofattofit.com. Please subscribe to the newsletter to stay in the know of what's going on with new podcast episodes and the TV show. I'll keep you guys informed.
Yeah, and you guys can find me on Instagram and Facebook at the number 2 Fit at Home. My website is the number 2 fitathome.com. And just like Drew, I have a newsletter that I send out. You can subscribe to that on my website.
All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys back here for another great episode on the Fit to Fat to Fit Experience podcast.
See you guys.